there. And then, of course, you got Santorum. And, I actually watched Santorum on Glenn Beck's program. And I was really impressed with him because, he seemed like he was on the level. I don't know if you watched that broadcast. Did you get a chance to watch that one or not?
I might have missed that one. I catch a lot of different episodes of I try to follow a lot of different media platforms that are out there. And so, I haven't always been committed to one or the next. Like right now, I'm a little bit of on a Rush Limbaugh, listenership thing right now.
Yeah.
But I've gone through phases where I haven't really listened to Rush Limbaugh as much, or maybe I'll listen to more of Beck, or maybe I'll listen to more of, some other talking heads and so forth that are on there as I'm trying to dig up various, different information and talking to different insiders and so forth,
Yeah.
Trying to put together a big picture as everybody is out there, just trying to find, follow the large picture and gist of things. And we are definitely in a world right now of global changing and power factions that are changing up a little bit here and there.
Absolutely.
I think that we're in a little bit of a safer spot today than we were a couple of years ago. I would say that much. I very much so would. I'm not going to tell you that it's I'm not saying that the sun is up and the clouds have expired.
Yeah,
by no means whatsoever. $15 trillion is what the national debt is up to right now, and we got a lot of irresponsible spending, incentivizing for people to work it all out there.
Mm-hmm.
People that can make jobs are sitting back on the sidelines. You got good people who want to do good things, but they're juggling a balance between crisis and crash versus dealing with a hard economy the best that they can out there. And I'm going to tell you right now that even with amongst people of financial wealth out there, in some humanistic manners. They're not a lot different than the average Joe out there in some regards to the human side. You got people with good intentions, and you got people with selfish intentions,
Absolutely.
And, you got a very volatile and perilous world right now. It's a little bit on the teeter-totter. I'm going to tell you that, with the Republican Party, with the politics that we're seeing today, you're seeing a shift. You're seeing a generational thing going on where they have to calibrate what our older generations before us, who are a little more wiser than we are, sees and understands, versus who the middle-aged generations are and the younger generations and so forth. And so you got a lot of generations colliding right now, and calibrations going on with parties. And obviously the Democratic Party's gone full throttle Marxist. They're very, I'm not even sure if they're quite socialist. I think they're not quite communist to me. But they're somewhere in the middle of communist and socialist for sure. It's a very authoritarian party anymore. It's not the John F. Kennedy Democratic Party that some of the the old-timers remember back in the day.
Yeah, but would you agree with me if John F. Kennedy ran today, he would be a Republican, would he not?
Oh, absolutely, and he would, might even be considered too conservative with some of our Republicans today.
Yeah.
Really, if you break down the factions that are there, you have a religious faction, of course. You have a libertarian faction that's always been there.
Yeah.
They've been a little turned off for quite some time, a lot longer than the average person out there. But the libertarian faction of the Republican Party has been there for quite some time. And you have your fiscal conservatives and your constitutionalists, and you have more of a factional party fabric that makes up the Republican Party. And even that fabric's a little bit off kilter with what happened with that housing bubble burst brought about by the Democrats, with them pushing Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae through there.
Yeah, and did you know that they just popped up in the headlines a couple of days ago that they were trying to acquire another bailout? Did you hear about that?
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It's quite hard to even keep track of a lot of these bailouts. that still continue to this day. And there's been a lot of, you've seen the media shift. It's been very stark and quite noticeable for some time on the liberal media and conservative media. So, I mean, you know what that tells me? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what's going on with that. There's been a little bit of a stabilization, quid pro quo agreement of something on the power players that be out there to some light degree. But, you do have, two very, very different visions colliding.
Yeah.
America today. I mean, the visions are very starkly different, like night and day.
Yeah.
And you got a vision of a socialist utopia, obviously that Barack Hussein Obama believes in. That's his thing. And, of course, his cohorts and the supporters around him believes in that vision.
Yeah.
And, you got more of an American exceptionalist vision. And even amongst those that believe in American exceptionalism, where none of us are robots. None of us are. So, you're going to have people on the right who don't always intellectually agree with every single doggone topic that could ever be addressed, But I think that whether a person's a Mitt Romney supporter or Ron Paul supporter or a Newt Gingrich supporter, or if that person's a Rick Santorum supporter, I think that there's a baseline threshold, at least a foundational threshold of an American exceptionalist vision that they all agree upon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, how you go about itemized problem by problem, line by line, and piece by piece, you're going to have, some guys in our party that are there presenting different solutions, towards it. And some are exposed to a little bit more corruption than others right now. But I think that, the corruption thing that we have going on in D.C. is pretty deep and widespread, that to the fact and point to where if you're not affected by it, in short time, once you get into Washington, D.C., and you start, really getting ingrained in the political system, you're going to be approached by it.
Yeah.
And I think that's some of the problem solving that maybe the nation has to start thinking about and looking towards over the next course of, within the next decade. But it certainly isn't going to be a fast path of fixing all of the corruption that's in D.C. And it's going to take a little time. It's going to take creative minds to adapt and adjust themselves and get people protected the right way and so forth to try to minimize, how much exposure to that these candidates are going to be facing. I'm more of a realist.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just seeing what I'm seeing. I've seen a lot of shenanigans happen, even with both parties, even really to some extent. Obviously the Democratic Party's taken it to unprecedented levels, where it's just so in your face and so nonchalant and so whatever. That it's quite stark and dumbfounding to sit back as an American citizen and watch this garbage.
Yeah.
And not think to yourself, wow, I don't know if I can trust anyone around me hardly half the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is this garbage?
Yeah.
So you got a lot of people preparing for the worst outcomes out there, and I really don't blame people for doing that. I really don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I got a question for you. I mean, what would the likelihood, in your opinion, be of Barack Obama doing a Reichstag kind of event where they rig the elections and he tries to take power? I mean, what would the odds be on that one, would you say?
Voter fraud has been very prevalent with both parties right now, I would believe, or I would say in the last 4 or so years, now.
Yeah.
Or maybe even a little bit longer. Maybe they weren't as blunt or poignant about it in getting caught in the public eye with it. But we certainly have seen a degree of voter fraud that's been happening. And it's been, getting a little bit more brazen as each election cycle moves forward. And I don't think that it's politically expedient.
Yeah.
Probable that you see, like what you just stated with how the Nazis did it back in the day. Right now in America, I think you got too many people paying attention to things like that, and I think that it's not worth the a complete society collapse over it. And I don't think I think there's more guns than people in this country, and you got a lot of people paying a lot closer attention to things.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
And on multiple different levels right now.
Yeah.
And I think that basically, can the minds be there when there's too much power in any person's hands?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's like the old saying goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think we're quite there in America to where anybody per se really has absolute power.
Yeah.
Way through. I think that maybe the power base, in this nation and frankly throughout the world is definitely narrowing quite substantially, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't per se think that the world and our nation is all the way to that particular point yet.
Yeah.
But we definitely are on the wrong path, and we're on the wrong road. And in due time, if it's not Barack Obama right now, we're getting towards that point where it could be anyone of the future getting to that point. You see, so it isn't per se, a personal thing when you engage in the political process. There's a lot of mudslinging and name calling that goes on. That's to be expected. There's nothing new with that in politics at all.
Yeah.
But I just, it isn't as much personal as it is the notion and conception.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
I mean, what I'm saying is I don't think that anybody out there, we should learn from our history to some extent and degree that nobody on God's green earth should be in a position to where they find themselves pretty much so having absolute power.
No, that's...
Because as soon as that happens, that's when all the naughtiness and massive amounts of trouble beyond anyone's wildest imaginations occur at that point.
Well, you've noticed that Obama, over the last year or so, has done some amazing power grabs. I mean, bypassing
absolutely,
Congress.
Yeah. I mean, we the executive orders are flying and slinging, and you got a lot of stuff wrapped up in federal courts, and a whole line of slew of things getting ready to hit in that Supreme Court, and the nation is just flipped upside down, and the agenda has just not been very practical at all. There's not any give and take or any leeway on anything. We keep hearing from the left how important compromise is, but it seems like their version of compromise is, hey, just agree with everything they say, and that's compromise.
Yeah, and it doesn't work.
They're not really fooling anyone. I mean, normal people like ourselves don't get to talk that often.
No.
To convey to them that, hey, we're watching you. We're paying attention to a lot of stuff that you're doing.
Yeah,
absolutely. We've invested time, money. We're not engaged with you in the D.C. network.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
As you're playing a chess game and you're winning it, you got quite a few folks playing Othello.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you wouldn't mind, explain to the audience what the whole concept of Othello is, because I don't think some of them know.
It's an Orient game. It's an Asian game.
Yeah, okay.
And it's a game more of about ground positioning.
Yeah.
But not really being afraid of losing positions. It's just part of how the nature of the game works, I suppose,
Yeah.
And it's not like power moves in chess where you take out a piece and that piece is gone at all.
Absolutely.
It's a completely different game. And, both games involve strategy, of course. And, it's that's the nature of politics, even with, anybody in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Everyone's kind of jostling and positioning and angling on each other and so forth. And there's nothing new to politics at all in that regard, even.
Yeah. Well, hey, Mike,
in the United States.
We're coming up on a hard break here in about 30 seconds. You want to just sum it up, and then we got to take a break, and then we'll be right back, of course. And our guest is Mike. He's coming on the air with us today to explain what's going on, and it's a pleasure to have him here, honestly. So anyway, Mike, anything else you want to sum up in about 15 seconds?
Sure. I want to tell if there's any other fellow Republicans listening to this podcast, I think that the process that the party's going through is very healthy.
Yeah.
You know, periodically, you know, you got to break Ronald Reagan's 11th Amendment.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of do an in-house cleaning per se.
Mm-hmm.
To some extent. And, you know, you got to reshape platforms a little bit, finagle the rough edges and so forth. And I think, you know, with a candidate that we're going to pose, and Barack Hussein Obama, that everything that the party's been doing so far on taking